Hello everybody and welcome to today's episode of Fox Talks. Today I'm going to be talking about time in video games. So time is an element that has been in video games not quite from the start and implemented in different ways. Probably one of the original ways that you might remember time working into a video game is the fact that Super Mario levels have a timer, which says that you have to complete the particular level in a certain amount of time. Otherwise, you will fail. That was one of the first timers introduced into games. Of course, games like Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat have round timers so that you can't just, avoid fighting. I guess it kind of forces the issue. One of the most iconic games to mess with time, actually, two of the most iconic games to mess with time are games like the Legend of Zelda series, Ocarina of Time, which famously allowed you to travel back and forth in time to change events, and a game like Majora's Mask, which had you traveling back in time 3 days to try to stop the end of the world. Now, it was, on your initial playthrough, or at least for me, it was really ominous, and it was really difficult for me to wrap my head around the fact that I was going to beat this entire game in 3 days. And every time I didn't, I realized further and further how hard this was actually going to be. And then at a certain point things started to go the other way, where I started to realize, well, maybe I can actually beat this whole game in 3 days. But those are kind of iconic. I want to talk about some lesser known games and some more recent games that mess with time in really interesting ways. One of my favorite games to play with time is called Shadow of Destiny. It takes place in a small German town, and our main character is murdered within the first scene. It's at that point that he meets a homunculus in kind of a place outside of time that gives him a time traveling device and allows him to go back and prevent his own murder. But it seems that Destiny wants this guy dead, and to successfully complete the game, you will have to stop his murder many times. And even with that, depending on the choices you make throughout the game to get to that point, the way you solve puzzles, you'll get one of several different endings in which he may still die. That game is actually really interesting for me, even though it was kind of simple. Like, once you beat it a couple times, you know exactly what you're doing. It's not challenging anymore. It loses a lot of novelty, but it's still kind of fun to play, and it's still kind of fun to replay after that point, because you become emotionally invested because of the way the game forces you to make choices, and you really want to see those other endings. So that brings me to a game like Life is Strange, which I feel like is kind of the spiritual successor to Shadow of Destiny, and also Heavy Rain. It has the time travel elements and components of trying to save a particular life over and over again that you find in Shadow of Destiny, except that that person isn't necessarily you. And it has the dramatic storytelling elements and decisions and a lot of the feel in a lot of ways of Heavy Rain. It's also thematically really similar. And I'm going to play for you a little bit of gameplay from that game to kind of give you an idea of how it works and how time travel works in that game. Testing my powers, and she wants to know what is in her pockets. Well, I'm not psychic. I don't actually know what's in her pockets. So
I don't know. Do you have some kind of power or not? Okay, psychic girl. Let me show you what's actually in my pockets.
Okay, so now I have the opportunity to actually see what's in my pockets. And this is really
That was beyond epic fail. You even made me want to believe you.
You need to look at the item. Okay, Max. Study every item carefully and don't forget anything.
The attention to detail in this scene is kind of ridiculous.
You got this, Max. Now rewind and blow Chloe's mind.
to go back before she showed me what was in her pockets. And as she said, blow her mind.
This is me telling you what's inside your pockets.
Okay, Max, I'm hella ready.
As you'll see, the menu is actually cheap.
I'm pretty sure you have cigarettes on you.
Yes, you know I'm a smoker. But how many cigarettes?
7 cigarettes.
A superpower that allows you to count cigarettes. Cool. Amazing. Something else in my pockets?
Your car keys.
Duh, way too easy. I need details. Describe my keychain.
A cute robot panda keychain.
Not bad, Super Max. You do have that Irish luck, Caulfield. What else?
Some money.
Clearly I'm rich as fuck. How much do I have?
86 cents.
That's right, living large in Arcadia Bay. So that was cool. Show me more.
A parking ticket.
You know me well. But what is the exact time I was busted?
10:34 a.m.
Booyah! Max can tell time. Amazeballs.
So as you can see, even with simple interactions with other characters, you can rewind and use information that they give you when you fail your conversation to go back and succeed in the conversation later. And this is actually a mechanic that gets used all the time within the game, and it's one of the main ways that you build closer and tighter relationships with other characters, in addition to some time sleuthing and detective work. And one of the things that I like to do as I'm going through this game, I try to make friends with everybody. I try to genuinely help as many people as I can, even if they're in a set to be my enemy, because about halfway through my playthrough I realized, there's a lot of red herrings in this game. There's a lot of archetypes that you assume are set when you first are introduced to characters, and then you begin to realize, no, that's not who this person is. They're a lot deeper of a character than that. I shouldn't have perhaps expected that, and a lot of my early decisions were based on their archetype. I did what I would do to them based on the archetype that I perceived them as. And this is one of the main ways that the game gets interesting, because you may make a decision in the first episode that you think is so cut and dry, like, oh, of course I'm gonna do this, because screw that guy, or girl, or whatever. But then later in the game you start to realize, maybe that wasn't the best decision at that point. Maybe I shouldn't have done that. In the moment, you actually have the ability to rewind time and go back and remake all of those critical decisions, but at every point, your character's internal voice will tell you, well, maybe I should have done it a different way, just to kind of goad you into going the other way. And sometimes when you make a decision for the first time, you'll say, you were right. No, that's actually a good point. I need to go back and redo that. But then you'll realize that they say something else negative or positive about the other scenario, and you're like, no, that's right. You've got a point there. I need to go back and do it again. But no matter how many times you redo it, there comes a point where you have to reach a point of no return, and you have to walk away from that decision and say, I'm going to live with the consequences of this. And this is a big thing that the directors actually wanted to work into the game.
You have a lot of choice you can make in the game, which will have consequences later on in the same episode or in the other episode. And there is one big choice in this scene, right, that will happen, for example.
Yeah, the idea for each choice is really to have not easy choice to take, even if it's not life or and death choice, like you could have in other game, or it's more everyday life choices. The important is really to make your own and to decide to live with it. So that's why with max power, it's of course more difficult, because you can try a choice. You're not sure, you're going to rewind and you're going to make the other one, but the important is if you want to continue and to move on, you have to keep on one and live with the consequence.
While you have almost an unlimited freedom to go back and remake any decision that you make in the game, it's only for kind of a limited window of time. And after that point, you have to live with your decisions. And that can be the hardest part of the game. It adds a really interesting drama to the game, whereas, say, in a shooter or something like Call of Duty, I'm worried about a momentary decision where I walk out into a line of fire and get shot and die. And bam, the game is over right there, it's done. In this game, the mistakes that you make aren't readily apparent. They aren't immediately apparent. It's something where you make a mistake and then you realize it's a mistake a lot later for whatever reason. And usually the game is pretty good about giving you the ability, and it's never easy, to kind of redeem yourself for that mistake and make things work out in spite of that mistake. But it adds an interesting tension to the game where instead of worrying about dying, you're worried about everyone else. You're worried about other people dying because of mistakes that you made a chapter ago or an episode ago. So that adds a really interesting tension and drama. And I've got to admit, I could not bring myself to do this video before I went back and replayed the first 2 episodes, because I made a couple of mistakes within the first 2 episodes that led to a very key story point not going my way. And I kind of grinned and bared it and said, well, let's see how this affects the storyline, because if I replay this, I'm not likely to make those mistakes again. I won't be able to see this the second time, so I might as well see it on my first playthrough, and then on my second playthrough I'm going to try to do it right. And that's what I'm trying to do, and I'll probably get a different ending. Well, I'll definitely get a different ending because of it, because I'm going to make some different decisions in the very end of the game, but I want to see how other things are affected throughout the game as well. My relationships with each and every character, how those play out differently because of how I've approached them and handled them differently throughout the game, knowing what I know about the future. Because ultimately, I am the ultimate time traveler here in that I have seen the entire storyline outside of the confines of what they allow you to rewind, and I've gone all the way back to the beginning to make my decisions again. And that is probably the most compelling part of the game. Now, that's pretty dramatic. I mentioned shooters, so what if you could play with time within a shooter? Ideas like this were introduced in, I believe it was Max Payne, where you have bullet time. But what if a game was entirely in bullet time? Would that be too gimmicky? Well, if it were Max Payne, it would be. If you could play Max Payne entirely with bullet time, it would be a very simple game. Enter Super Hot, where the game is not at all simple, in spite of the fact that your enemies and your environment will only move when you move. But the game likes to stack the odds against you. Let me show you a clip.
Okay. So much faster than bullets. Actually, the anticipated. Also,
Okay, so you see how in the replay I look like a trained sniper, essentially, in that the second I see people, I waste no movement or motion in just immediately getting a headshot or a body shot if I can. And that's because the game sets it up like a chess match where I'm the queen and I have to fight a lot of pawns with no backup. Sure, the queen has a lot of power to take down something as simple as pawns, and in a one-on-one fight, a queen will beat a pawn every time. However, when you're diving headfirst into a army of pawns, it's very easy to make a simple mistake, forget where one of them is, and get shot in the back. I don't know that chess was really meant to have guns, but essentially get shot in the back. So it's really interesting how Superhot makes you question every tiny movement that you make, and often you'll find that maybe swinging your gun too fast and just missing someone is exactly what it takes to end the game for you, in that round for you, because you made a tiny yet crucial mistake. And it adds this really intense level of strategy to the game that I don't think that any other first-person shooters have. So I find it really compelling to play. So that was my review of a couple of different games involving time. If you have any comments on games that you like that played with time that I didn't mention, if you want to talk about Legend of Zelda with me, I'm perfectly happy to do that. If you want to talk about Life is Strange, or if you've played Shadow of Destiny, I would be very interested to have that conversation with you. So start it up in the comments. Until next time, this has been Fox Talks. Enjoy the rest of your day.